Now, were you able to wear undergarments, if you
You're
will?
like the fifth person that's asked me
Well, no,
that
because
today. What is going on? Since when did people start asking each other about, in interviews, about their underwear?
No, here's
I'll
why.
leave it up to your imagination.
Oh, see?
Okay?
Is that...
Whatever you feel like I should be wearing or not wearing under that costume.
This is not a...
Is what
Imagine walking into a room where every word you say, every glance you make is being dissected by millions. Now imagine someone crosses a line, a question too personal, a joke too cruel. What would you do? Laugh it off, walk away, or snap? In Hollywood and beyond, these moments happen every day. Celebrities are adored, celebrated, and watched, but fame also brings something far darker: scrutiny, disrespect, and relentless testing of boundaries. And when patience runs out, the results can be shocking, unforgettable, and viral. Being in the spotlight is a double-edged sword. Fame brings admiration, immense financial rewards, and unparalleled access to the world's attention. Studies show that celebrities often experience up to 24/7 scrutiny, with social media amplifying every action and misstep to millions of followers worldwide. Will Smith, for instance, has over 60 million Instagram followers, meaning that any public action, whether a post or a moment on live television, reverberates instantly across a global audience. The allure of fame is intoxicating, but it comes with relentless pressure, invasive commentary, and moments that test even the most disciplined individuals. Maintaining professionalism is a constant balancing act, and yet there are times when patience snaps, and even the most polished stars show the full weight of their humanity. Take Will Smith at the 94th Academy Awards in 2022, a moment that became one of the most tweeted events in Oscar history, generating millions of mentions worldwide in the hours that followed. The glittering room, filled with Hollywood's elite, was electric with anticipation. Then came Chris Rock's joke about Jada Pinkett Smith's shaved head, a result of her alopecia diagnosis, a condition affecting approximately 2% of Americans, which causes hair loss and is often a sensitive topic. The atmosphere shifted instantly, tension crackling like a live wire. Will's composure, honed over decades of navigating Hollywood scrutiny, finally broke. His voice rang out, sharp and unyielding. "Keep my wife's name out of your mouth." And then, with action speaking louder than words, he struck Rock. It wasn't merely a burst of anger. It was a statement, a boundary enforced live before over 18 million viewers tuning in on ABC alone, not counting the millions more following online globally. Some provocations demand more than measured words. Some lines, once crossed, provoke action. Even the most controlled celebrities have limits. Robert Downey Jr.'s encounter with uncomfortable questioning tells a different but equally revealing story. The Oscar-winning actor, known for his transformative role as Tony Stark in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, has publicly discussed his history with substance abuse, which spanned from the late 1990s into the early 2000s. His struggles included multiple arrests and stints in rehab, and at one point, he was even considered unemployable in Hollywood. When an interviewer brought up these struggles, asking whether he had fully moved past his addiction, the room shifted from casual curiosity to tense confrontation. Questions about his darkest periods, drug and alcohol use, and his personal recovery journey dug into territory that was both intimate and painful. Frustration flashed across Robert's face as he asked, almost rhetorically, "I'm sorry. What are we doing?" In that moment, walking away wasn't avoidance. It was an act of self-preservation. Research shows that repeated public scrutiny can increase stress and trigger relapse for those in recovery, underscoring why some questions are simply off-limits. For individuals who live much of their lives in public, reclaiming dignity sometimes means refusing to participate in conversations that feel invasive, even if it risks public criticism or media backlash. Jake Paul, the controversial YouTube star turned professional boxer, has built his career on audacity, spectacle, and a willingness to engage in conflict on a global stage. With over 23 million Instagram followers and more than 20 million combined subscribers on YouTube, Paul's every move is tracked, critiqued, and monetized by a massive, digitally connected audience. His rise from internet personality to headline fighter has been polarizing. Critics consistently question his training credentials, his opponents, and whether he belongs in the ring at all. During an infamous interview with British broadcaster Piers, whose show regularly draws millions of viewers worldwide, Paul was met with relentless jabs about his boxing ability and readiness to face top-tier competition. Rather than deflecting or retreating, Paul turned the critique into confrontation, launching into a response that was as bold as his public persona. Quips like, "You versus Mike Tyson, you'd have two hopes." "No hope, Bob," transformed hypothetical insults into a combustible verbal exchange. In doing so, Paul illustrated a hard truth about the modern celebrity machine in an age where social media analytics and engagement metrics often determine public perception. Attacking or defending one's reputation in real time is as consequential as any in-ring performance. A comeback isn't just rhetoric, it's content. Clips from that segment alone generated hundreds of thousands of views across platforms within days, proving that in the digital era, controversy can be a currency as valuable as victory itself. For Michael B. Jordan, one of Hollywood's most respected actors and a leading figure in blockbuster cinema, confrontation with the past was less about spectacle and more about emotional reckoning. By the time Creed III was released in 2023, the franchise had grossed hundreds of millions worldwide, with Creed alone surpassing $170 million domestically and over $275 million globally. Jordan had already transformed himself from a rising star into a box office force. Yet even with that success, nothing in his career prepared him for a promotional interview that unexpectedly reunited him with his high school bully. The encounter was jarring. Once a source of daily humiliation during his formative years, the bully's presence stirred complex feelings beneath Jordan's confident public exterior. An attempt at humor, being labeled a corny kid, was an awkward echo of the past that could not fully mask deeper emotional undercurrents. Psychological research suggests that early life social trauma, especially from peer aggression, can leave enduring emotional imprints, even in individuals who go on to achieve high levels of success. For Jordan, who had now stepped into his own as a producer and major Hollywood figure, facing that moment on camera was far more than media promotion. It was a confrontation with a younger version of himself, with old wounds exposed in front of millions. What audiences saw wasn't just a celebrity answering questions, it was a human being confronting history. In a world where fame often obscures vulnerability, Jordan's experience reminded viewers that success doesn't erase the past, it reframes it. Then there are moments when the unexpected doesn't just intrude, it completely commandeers the spotlight. Jim Carrey, one of Hollywood's most distinctive and unconventional performers, is no stranger to surrealism. With a career spanning more than 3 decades, including iconic comedic roles in Ace Ventura, Pet Detective 1994, The Mask 1994, and Dumb and Dumber 1994, Carrey has been both a box office champion and a cultural enigma. His films have grossed over $2 billion worldwide, yet his public persona has never fit neatly into any box. So when, during a televised interview earlier in his career, Carrey abruptly abandoned the expected promotional script and launched into a passionate, seemingly off-the-cuff denouncement of the ceremony's purpose, viewers were stunned. With millions of Americans tuned in, many awards shows draw upwards of 15-20 million viewers on live television before additional streaming and social media viewership is counted. Carrey's voice cut through the usual rhetoric of praise and celebration. "I wanted to find the most meaningless thing that I could come to," he said with a mix of humor and intensity, shaking his head at the idea of celebrating icons inside. His frustration wasn't merely dismissive, it was philosophical, critiquing the very framework by which Hollywood honors itself. For a performer who once described his own approach to fame as an ongoing performance, the moment was both unsettling and unmistakably sincere. It left many questioning not just what they had seen, but why they were seeing it at all, blurring the line between interview, performance art, and social critique. By contrast, Megan Fox's confrontation in the interview room was grounded not in surrealism, but in sharp cultural context and industry reality. Fox, who first rose to global prominence in the Transformers franchise, which collectively grossed over $4 billion worldwide, has long been part of conversations about gender representation in Hollywood. Despite the enormous revenue blockbuster franchises generate, in 2022, superhero films accounted for approximately 26% of global box office revenue. Women have historically been underrepresented in leading roles within the genre. When an interviewer asked whether more female-led superhero films should be made, Fox didn't hesitate. Looking directly into the camera, she responded with pointed clarity. "Do you think I would answer anything but yes to that question?" Her rebuttal underscored a truth supported by industry analysis. While women comprise half of moviegoers globally, female protagonists remain significantly underrepresented in major tentpole films. Fox's confident response resonated with audiences around the world, sparking online discussion about representation in Hollywood and underscoring how sometimes a clear answer is not only justified, it's necessary. Then there Anne Hathaway, a versatile performer whose work has earned her an Academy Award, a Golden Globe, and roles in films that together have grossed over $6.7 billion worldwide. When the conversation shifted during an interview from her craft to her body, with questions about whether she was trying to lose weight or if she needed to be in perfect shape. Hathaway faced these invasive remarks with grace, humor, and poise. Rather than retreating or shrugging off the question, she reframed it. It wasn't about being in perfect shape, she explained. It was about being able to execute the stunts and perform the physical demands of the role safely and effectively. In doing so, she highlighted a reality often overlooked by casual observers. Preparing for physically demanding roles is not about aesthetics, but athletic performance. Professional stunt preparation routines for major films often involve months of strength training, flexibility work, and coordination drills, much like those of professional athletes. Hathaway's response shifted the focus away from appearance and back onto professionalism, reminding audiences that when an actor trains, they are preparing their body for performance integrity and safety, not simply conforming to an external ideal. Her composure in the face of intrusive commentary demonstrated maturity and respect for her craft, turning a potentially uncomfortable exchange into a teachable moment for anyone paying attention. Sometimes celebrities don't just deflect questions, they confront them with unfiltered truth. Tom Hardy, the British actor known for his intense physical transformations and powerful screen presence, has built a reputation on versatility and depth. With major roles in films like Inception, grossing over $830 million worldwide, and The Dark Knight Rises, over $1 billion globally, Hardy has been asked countless times about his craft. When an interviewer attempted to steer the conversation toward his personal life, specifically his sexuality, Hardy didn't dance around the subject. With calm clarity, he asked, "Are you asking me about my sexuality?" flipping the question back on its premise. In an industry where public speculation about personal identity can overshadow artistic achievement, his refusal to be cornered underscored a fundamental truth: an actor's work should be central, not their private life. In another corner of Hollywood, Jonah Hill, the actor and filmmaker whose career has spanned comedies, dramas, and award-worthy roles, has become all too familiar with intrusive commentary. After starring in projects grossing hundreds of millions of dollars combined, 21 Jump Street alone made over $200 million domestically. Hill's success has never fully shielded him from reductive questions about his weight. In one interview, a reporter repeatedly circled back to physical appearance rather than performance or craft, asking, "Do you think it's important to be unattractive to be funny?" Hill's response was both sharp and self-aware. Humor and personal identity are not contingent on looks but rather on authenticity. Despite repeated prodding, even assertions like, "Are you still considered the fat guy in Hollywood?" Hill refused to be reduced to a stereotype. He turned an uncomfortable line of questioning into a lesson about respect, bringing the focus back to talent rather than trivializing body-shaming tropes. These conversations come at a time when public scrutiny of celebrity bodies and identities is at an all-time high. A 2023 report from the USC Annenberg Inclusion Initiative revealed that actors labeled as non-traditional body types are still underrepresented in leading roles, a disparity that continues to fuel misguided questions in media interviews. Hill's grounded rebuttals reminded audiences that an actor's worth isn't up for debate based on superficial metrics. Then there's Sandra Bullock, an Academy Award-winning actress whose career spans over 3 decades and whose films have grossed more than $8 billion worldwide. Known for iconic roles in Gravity, The Blind Side, and Miss Congeniality, Bullock walked into an interview promoting the proposal, expecting a standard press cycle. Instead, she encountered a line of questioning that wandered into bizarre territory, centered not on her performance or the movie itself, but on intrusive personal observations. With millions tuning in and social media amplifying every awkward moment, Bullock's experience became a teachable moment on how to maintain dignity under pressure. Rather than crumble under discomfort, she used humor and firmness to push back, steering the conversation back to her craft and setting a clear tone about what was and was not acceptable. Ice Cube, the rapper-turned-actor whose influence spans music, film, and culture, also refused to tolerate disrespect. With a career that has included platinum albums and box office hits like Straight Outta Compton, which grossed over $200 million worldwide, Cube is no stranger to tough crowds. During an interview that veered into racially insensitive jokes, he didn't hold back. Calling out the interviewer's jokes as offensive, Cube made it unmistakably clear that humor rooted in racial stereotypes crosses a line. His stance sparked widespread discussion online, including thousands of social media shares and reactions, reinforcing that accountability is essential when public figures address harmful language in media settings. Meanwhile, Katt, the comedian celebrated for his sharp wit and fearless commentary, experienced a moment when off-script remarks led to explosive results. In an interview segment where he was expected to discuss an award and his contributions to the city of Atlanta, Williams was met instead with questions that strayed into unrelated personal territory. Known for stand-up specials that often land at the top of comedy charts, Williams didn't hesitate. With trademark energy, he pivoted into a humorous but pointed roast of the situation, using observations about something as mundane as boiling broccoli to highlight just how absurd the interview had become. That exchange quickly went viral, accruing hundreds of thousands of views across platforms and underscoring that staying on topic isn't just courteous, it's essential for respectful dialogue. These moments reflect a larger truth about celebrity and media. Public figures may exist in a spotlight, but they remain human beings with limits. Whether deflecting invasive personal questions, correcting disrespectful assumptions, or confronting outright offensive commentary, these individuals remind us that even in an age of constant media exposure, dignity and boundaries matter, and sometimes your most powerful response is simply asserting them in real time. There are moments in the spotlight that go beyond awkward or uncomfortable. They expose just how thin the line can be between curiosity and intrusion. Sometimes that line is crossed so blatantly that the person on the receiving end is left speechless. Take Tasha Reign, for example. Known for her work in the adult film industry, Reign has built a substantial social media presence with hundreds of thousands of followers and has spoken openly about professionalism, consent, and respect within her field. But during one interview, a question was posed to her that instantly crossed every boundary of decency. Rather than engage with something appropriate, the interviewer veered into an unearthed personal space, asking something about her childhood and whether she had been touched at an early age. The moment, carried not just by the words themselves, but the invasive tone in which they were delivered, was so startling that it left Reign completely speechless. Experts studying interview trauma note that sudden, deeply personal questions can trigger both emotional freeze responses and cognitive shock, especially when delivered in a public forum with cameras rolling and millions of unseen viewers. This wasn't just poor taste, it was an uninvited intrusion into pain that no one should be expected to relive under the glare of live media. In a very different world, the world of professional sports, Russell Westbrook found himself similarly caught off guard by an interviewer's lack of context. Westbrook, a 9-time NBA All-Star, former NBA Most Valuable Player, 2017, and one of the most dynamic guards in basketball history, has faced countless press sessions throughout his career. But following a confusing game that ended in defeat, he was asked a question so disorienting that his reaction became instantly meme-worthy. "Did you lose this game or did the Jazz win it?" the reporter asked, demonstrating a basic misunderstanding of scorekeeping, a misstep that instantly caused Westbrook to freeze, stare, and ultimately walk away. It was a blunt reminder that even elite athletes, who routinely process rapid game analytics and advanced metrics, deserve questions grounded in accuracy rather than confusion. Westbrook's journey through media scrutiny didn't stop there. In another interview, he chose not to walk away, instead opting to wield context like a shield. Faced with broad statements and assumptions based on incomplete information, he challenged the reporter directly. "Where do you get your context from? Are you in practice? Are you at our film session? Are you around the building?" His insistence on real context wasn't defensiveness, it was a demand for informed, respectful dialogue. In national sports coverage, where conversational sound bites circulate in the millions and misinterpretations become headlines, Westbrook's response underscored a broader truth. Sports journalism works best when the questions are as informed as the performances they seek to interrogate. Some celebrity confrontations escalate beyond words. Sofía Vergara, the Colombian-born actress and producer whose long-running role on Modern Family made her one of television's highest-paid actresses, earning over $500,000 per episode in later seasons, encountered a moment that became instantly unforgettable. During a live interview, the banter turned inappropriate, and in response, Vergara physically slapped host Jimmy Kimmel before walking off camera. The moment lit up social platforms around the world, not just as a shocking stunt, but as a clear statement. Disrespect, particularly when rooted in mockery or objectification, is not something she would tolerate, even in the performative atmosphere of late-night TV. Her reaction sparked debates about decorum, gendered expectations in media, and the realities of navigating public space as a woman in entertainment. Then there was David Letterman, a television legend whose late-night program influenced generations of talk shows and reached audiences measured in tens of millions per week during its peak. When Letterman turned an interview with Lindsay Lohan, an actress whose early career included box office hits like The Parent Trap and Freaky Friday, into a replay of her well-publicized struggles with addiction and rehab, the interaction quickly became uncomfortable. Lohan had openly discussed her recovery journeys and expressed her desire to be known for her work rather than her struggles. But Letterman's repeated probing, asking how long she'd been in rehab, how many times she had gone, and what was being worked on, veered into territory that transcended legitimate curiosity and crossed straight into insensitivity. Her measured refusal to continue humiliated the interview's premise and served as a stark reminder that rehabilitation isn't a spectator sport. It's a deeply personal, ongoing journey, not fodder for ratings. These moments spanning sports, comedy, serious acting, and media culture all point toward a single, undeniable truth. Celebrities may walk into interviews expecting questions about work, roles, and achievements, but they don't sign up for disrespect. Whether it's a wildly inappropriate prompt designed to shock, a misunderstanding that reveals ignorance rather than insight, a physical pushback against objectification, or an attempt to relive a painful chapter of life, these public figures remind the world that boundaries still matter. And when those boundaries are crossed, their reactions, be they retorts, refusal, calm correction, or dramatic exits, tell powerful stories about dignity, respect, and self-worth in a world that often forgets celebrities are human first. Tasha Rain, the adult film actress and performer with a career spanning more than a decade and a social media reach of hundreds of thousands of followers, experienced one of the most jarring moments any public figure can face during an interview. At an event that was meant to be professional and respectful, she was asked a deeply invasive question about her childhood, a line of inquiry so inappropriate that it rendered her momentarily speechless, catching her entirely off guard. According to surveys on media ethics and interview standards, questions about personal trauma or history, particularly when unrelated to the professional subject at hand, are considered so intrusive that they can trigger immediate emotional freeze responses in respondents. In high-stakes media settings where millions could be watching online and across broadcast platforms, such moments are not just uncomfortable, they can be psychologically destabilizing. Tasha's response reminded viewers worldwide that there is a clear boundary between legitimate curiosity and disrespectful intrusion. In the high-pressure world of professional sports, Russell Westbrook has faced his own share of media challenges. A 9-time NBA All-Star, a league MVP in 2017, and one of only a handful of players in NBA history to record a season averaging a triple-double feats achieved by fewer than a dozen players since the league began tracking the statistic. Westbrook's career has been defined by intensity and passion. Yet even the most accomplished athletes can be taken aback by media moments that lack context or comprehension. In one infamous interview following a confusing loss, a reporter asked him whether his team lost the game or whether the opponent won it, a question so basic in its misunderstanding of basketball's fundamental scoring that Westbrook's expression of disbelief quickly became a viral meme. Later in his career, when confronted with another round of poorly informed questions based on assumptions rather than fact, Westbrook took a more assertive approach. "Where do you get your context from?" he asked pointedly, challenging the narrative instead of simply absorbing it. In a league where statistical analysis, advanced metrics, and data-driven insights dominate post-game coverage, with millions of fans tracking every possession in real time via analytics platforms, it's understandable that athletes expect at least a baseline of informed engagement from the press. Westbrook's stance served as a public reminder that athletes aren't obligated to field questions rooted in misunderstanding. Across these moments, whether in entertainment, sports, or public discourse, one truth remains unmistakable. Celebrity is a high-stakes balancing act fraught with pressure, expectation, and exposure. Fame brings power, influence, and financial success. The average A-list actor can command tens of millions per film, and top athletes often sign contracts worth hundreds of millions, accompanied by global endorsement deals that reach billions of consumers. Yet that visibility also exposes individuals to an unending barrage of questions, commentary, and speculation. Research on the psychological effects of fame has found that celebrities are significantly more likely than the general population to experience anxiety, stress, and burnout due to constant public exposure. Repeated media interactions, especially those that cross emotional, personal, or ethical boundaries, are cited as one of the primary stressors contributing to mental health challenges among high-profile figures. And it's not just speculation. A 2021 study by the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that public figures report higher rates of intrusive experience, including unsolicited personal questions, rumors, and veiled judgments, than people in private life. Some celebrities respond with grace and measured composure, maintaining dignity even under pressure. Others wield humor as armor, deflecting or reframing intrusive commentary. And some, when confronted with disrespect that crosses the line, respond with blunt honesty, physical gesture, or assertive refusal. What unites these reactions is a reminder that behind the public image, the Instagram followers, the box office numbers, and the global fan bases, is a human being with real feelings, limits, and the universal right to respect. Whether it's a career spanning hundreds of millions in revenue, an MVP trophy sitting on a mantle, or a viral moment that echoes across millions of screens, one thing remains clear: power and prominence don't eliminate personal boundaries. They amplify them, and they magnify the cost when those boundaries are crossed. At the end of the video, after all the shocking, viral, and deeply human moments, you want your audience engaged. Here's an example CTA that works perfectly for this type of content. If you were shocked by these celebrity reactions, hit that like button and subscribe, because the world of fame is just getting started. Comment below, which moment shocked you the most, and how would you react if you were in their shoes? Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss the next deep dive into the untold stories of Hollywood, sports, and beyond.